Hello, hello, hello. I see that people are filtering in. In hindsight, I shouldn't have highlighted that we're recording this so much because we want the live people in here versus people just waiting for the recordings, but that's okay. If you are here, you're going to be able to, the number jumped up. Good. So thank you for coming. Welcome. This is day 2 of the SBA Maine Export Week 2023, which is going on all week. This is being hosted by the Maine Small Business Development Center and the Women's Business Center, hosted by CEI. So yesterday we had day 1 where we talked about why you would want to export. We had some keynote speakers from the SBA, and we talked about, are you ready, and some steps that you can take to kind of prepare yourself for exporting, just kind of testing the waters. So that was day 1. Now we're on day 2, where we're looking at export assistant resources, and we're going to get to that. We got the Maine International Trade Center and some other partners involved. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about export finance, and that's going to be some local banks and also the SBA talking about their programs. The 4th day, Thursday, the 11th, we're going to have the Women's Business Center. Grace is going to talk about developing an export business plan. And finally, the 5th day, we're going to round it out with a panel of your peers. Oftentimes I get great feedback on this because it's your peers who are just a little more ahead of you maybe on exporting. They're already in exporting, and they can give you their pros and cons, what their real life ability or what their real life stresses were, the pitfalls, the joys, and they can share those stories with you and how they got the funding and how they feel it is going. So that is definitely one that is worthwhile to attend live, to be able to ask questions on that one. So with these, if you know someone who would want to register, they can still register online at the SBDC website. If you go to the learning button, that's where you register. And the secret is, if you register once, you've registered for all of the series. We have the same Zoom link each day, so you don't have to worry about a different one, though Kelsey will send you a reminder email at the beginning of the day. And at the end of the day, you'll also get an email with any slides that we might have had and or a link to the recording, or we might even save that for the very end. Gives us a little wiggle room there. So with this, it is being recorded, and we do take the recordings and put them on YouTube and then share the link. If you subscribe to our channel, the Maine Small Business Development Center channel, then you'll get notified every time a video like this pops up, and then you can decide if you want to watch it or not. But during this presentation, of course, questions are promoted, wanted, and definitely add to the discussion. But if you have a question, there will be some short, brief question time after each presenter, and there will also be at the end a longer question and answer time that you can ask of all the presenters in a group. If you have a question at any point, you can go down, if we're all familiar with Zoom, on the bottom of the screen towards the right, there's a reaction button, and you can kind of raise your hand. Kelsey just did it for an example. Raise your hand and we can kind of call on you and say, hey, if that doesn't work, you can't find the reaction button, then just put it into chat and we can find you there as well if all else fails. But we definitely want questions. We could not do this. We could not do this whole week if we didn't have the help of partners, right? We have the Women's Business Center, the SBA. This one always gets blocked because I have my screen up there. The Import-Export Bank, Gorham Savings, Maine International Trade Center, we're going to hear from today, U.S. Commercial Service, Bangor Savings, Navitrade, Export Tech, Jinx Products, Kelp, Northern Maine Kelp, Dental Lace, and SCORE, and of course the Small Business Development Center. So a big thank you to all the people that have worked to make this week possible. Now, with that being said, we're going to hand it over to the Maine International Trade Center to start this second day off. Zeynep Turk is going to be here, and she is a study Maine director and senior trade specialist for the Maine International Trade Center. So thank you, and I'm going to stop sharing and you can take it away.
Hello, thank you so much, Peter. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I would like to thank all our partners SBA, SBDC, CEI, and others for organizing this week and including us. As Peter mentioned, I'm Zeynep Turk. I'm originally from Turkey. I grew up in Istanbul, came here as a student to Maine, and I've been at the Maine International Trade Center for 17 years. I'm going to go through, before I go through my slides, I do want to thank the other panelists with me, Jeff Porter from U.S. Commercial Service. They bring the federal support when we are more the state support. We partner together to help Maine businesses succeed. Mike Stone of Stone and Associates, he's been a partner with us for a long time, and he runs the Export Tech program nationally. And we just completed our this year's class. He'll talk more about that. And I'm very happy to have Tom Fox of Fox Forestry, a business owner who can actually, probably you would be able to relate most to him and his experiences, because we're the more support economic development and consulting side, and he's living and experiencing these. So he would be more able to hopefully answer some of your questions and talk about his experiences. So with that, I'll start my PowerPoint presentation about some of our services, about who we are, and there'll be some question period afterwards. So let's please go to the next slide, and thank you, Kelsey, for running the slides for me. So Maine International Trade Center is Maine's source for international business assistance. We're an economic development agency focusing on international trade. We're under the DECD, Department of Economic and Community Development, but we also have a chamber-like structure where we got funding from some of our members. Let's go to the next slide. So why is trade important for Maine? Well, more than 2,000 Maine companies export over 3.1 billion in goods and services to 178 markets, which is actually mind-blowing once you stop and think about it, that our state here is connected to so many countries. And it supports 1 in 5 jobs, which is significant. And as we all know, and I'm sure most of you on this panel are small to mid-sized business owners. That's the majority of Maine businesses, and that's why SBA is so crucial, as well as SBDC and other partners. And we're also trying to attract investment to the state, and there are foreign-owned companies that employ over 35,000 employees. And here are some countries that we do business with, trade with: Canada, Switzerland, UK. Those are the actually investors into the state as well. Let's go to the next slide, please. We are our biggest service that we provide is the one-on-one trade assistance, where we get inquiries on a number of topics, such as documentation, logistics, how to get paid, how to send money, how to find distributors, which countries are the top markets for the product that somebody is interested in exporting. And just as a side note, we do help with importing as well as exporting, which Jeff Porter will talk about. There's a difference between the federal and the state side of things on that. So how this assistance works is you would reach out to us through email or call, tell us your inquiry, and then we research it, put together a packet of information for you, and then review it with you. So hopefully you'll get to use us for that. Let's go to the next slide, please. We also organize trade shows and trade missions. Trade shows are in the industry focused. So for example, you can see the 2 photos. One was a seafood trade show and one was a medical trade show. The benefit of participating through us is the cost is shared. We take care of all the preparing for the show, ordering how many trash bins, how many tables, etc., and we support you through the show. but you can also attend on your own, and we would support you with that too. But there's some details on we had as a result of these shows 13.9 million in projected sales last year. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, this is the most important probably of all my presentations, and we have some funding available through Small Business Administration, which we so appreciate, to and let's go to the next slide, to allocate to the main businesses that qualify as a small business under SBA. We call that the State Trade Expansion Program, STEP, and again, this is through U.S. Small Business Administration. And this sole purpose of this to help small businesses financially to export their international reach and international business and international sales. And if we go to the next slide, so you can receive up to $20,000 per year. That's a reimbursable cost. So you have to come up with the funds first, and you get reimbursed after the project is complete. And it's a 25% to 75% match. So you would be paying out of pocket 25%, which is pretty significant to get 75% of that reimbursed. Let's go to the next slide, please. So there are different categories you can use this funding for. International business development, so that is attending trade shows or trade missions. Trade missions are more multi-industry events that are organized. And you can organize, or you can hire a consultant, and Jeff Porter, a U.S. Commercial Service, that's our primary source for matchmaking, and he'll talk about that, but the cost of that, the fee for that would be covered under this. Export skills development, and that would be more like export tech that Mike Stone will be talking about, where you can actually get training focused on international market development, and up to 75% of that cost would be covered under this as well. Export marketing assistance and international e-commerce and digital marketing are the other segments or areas that you can use this funding for. So there's like compliance training, marketing, expense coverage. As long as there's an international aspect to it, that could be covered. There's a process for it where you apply before you attend a trade show or before you take some sort of training. Go through a 1 week to 10-day approval process after you fill out the form. Once you're approved, you can go ahead and attend and spend the funds. And then afterwards, you have to provide that you did attend the show or take the training, and that you get reimbursed. Let's go to the next slide, please. Now, I wanted to briefly touch up on this, even though it's not international, but it is also funding. And I know all small businesses are always appreciate funding. We have a new grant program we call DTAP, and this is through the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, and Office of Business Development and Maine Department of Economic and Community Development are partnering with us. They're giving us the funding to allocate. So eligible Maine companies may receive up to $15,000. So this is separate from that $20,000 I talked about before per year in reimbursements for growing your domestic sales, not international. So let's go to the next slide, please. And there are only certain sectors that this funds can be used for. Food and beverage, aerospace and defense, offshore wind and renewables are the sectors that these funds can be used for. And again, this could be for trade show participation, market research, compliance and certification related expenses, and training and attending industry events. Let's go to the next slide, please. And I just want to also mention that we do have ongoing educational programs. We have hosted this year Cybersecurity Essentials for International Business, an e-commerce roundtable, mastering export documentation type of program. So please get on our emailing list to receive upcoming program information. And next slide, please. There's the general contact information. I'm going to put my own contact information in the chat. And I do also want to mention that we have Maine International Trade Day coming up next Wednesday on the 17th, and it's a great, we have a award ceremony, and then it's a great networking event. I'm going to put the information on that on the chat as well. I would like everyone to consider attending. With that, I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions. And there'll be more time at the very end for questions as well. And if not, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Porter of U.S. Commercial Service, who can talk about some of the services I mentioned that we partner with and their services. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Zeynep. My role today is to be the comic interlude in between Zeynep and Mike. We'll see whether I meet my goal or not. Again, I work for the U.S. Commercial Service, as Zeynep indicated. I'm a federal employee, and my primary responsibility is working with Maine companies finding new markets for their products and services. Simply as that. Think of us as Match.com, but for companies looking for businesses overseas. We're really a unique federal agency. There are 1,500 of us worldwide. We're in over 80 countries now. And again, our only focus is to help U.S. companies find new markets for their products and services. Zeynep touched on a lot of things that we both do, and we both do together, so I'm not going to repeat that. There are 4 major areas that I spend my time. Export counseling, but I won't go into the details on that. Market intelligence, again, I won't go into the details on that. Zeynep's touched on those as well. Commercial diplomacy, where we help a lot of companies that are looking to do business with foreign entities overseas, foreign governments, and we can help with that procurement process through a commercial diplomacy process. But I'm going to focus all of my time on business matchmaking. We are the Commercial Service is the premier federal agency when it comes to helping U.S. companies find new markets for their products overseas. I've done this job now, I want to say 27 years. I've worked with hundreds of Maine companies to help find them new markets overseas. Our primary service is called the Gold Key Service. So whether the governor is doing a trade mission to a new market or an individual company is looking to find a new distributor or an agent in a market, we can help that company through a process find matches overseas. We are the government, so we do require a little bit of red tape, just a little bit. Unlike my counterparts in other federal agencies, all we require individuals to do is to fill out a form that tells us about their company, the type of agents or distributors they're already working with, whether it's domestically or internationally, but we only help them on the overseas piece. And again, I've been impressed over the years with the talent of the companies. The entrepreneurial spirit here in the state of Maine is pretty strong. And we view ourselves as a bridge to help them find new markets overseas. So 3 services that we have, and I can talk about them in more detail individually as companies ask questions, but this is a single company promotion. So you're a company, you manufacture gerotors or you manufacture, eyeglasses, and you want to find a distributor for that product. We'll put together an event for you in a particular market, whether it's Barcelona, Madrid, and we'll bring in all of the individuals that are that currently sell glasses in that country. Invite them to a reception. Wow. where you can actually showcase what you have to offer. Again, I think we don't use that one a lot. It's a lot of work and it is a little costly, but all of the services that I'm talking about right now do fall under the STEP program. I'm both on the Maine International Trade Center's board, and I'm also on the STEP review committee. And there's been some really interesting proposals that have come through this year. The second 2 services, they're both basically the same service. One involves travel, one doesn't involve travel. We have an international partner search. Again, what we're doing is we're looking to help that individual, that company find an agent, distributor, or representative in a particular market. And our Gold Key service is, again, it's our premier service, and that is one we go a step further. That means you're traveling to that particular market. So we'll arrange one-on-one appointments with you. Our commercial specialists will more than often go on those meetings. We'll provide translation. Depending on the market, we also provide transportation. We provide bulletproof vans you can rent, to do those markets, because some of the markets that our companies are participating in aren't the safest right now. But again, I'll stop it there. So just if you can take away one thing, think of us as matchmaking. Think of us as an opportunity to help you find opportunities overseas using the Trade Center with all the research they can provide, the targeted marketing they do as well, and then how we can find particular agents or distributors for you. But with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Mike Stone. Mike and I have worked together in Export Tech for a number of years and have known each other probably a lot longer than that.
I think we said if anybody has any questions for Jeff while I pull up my slides, please feel free to jump in or use the chat. Let me pull up slides meanwhile. And it looks like you can see this, correct? Great, thank you. All right, so I'm Mike Stone. I'm actually private sector, Stone and Associates. I'm a management consulting firm based in Portland. As I think Zainab mentioned, so I help to run the Export Tech program in collaboration with Jeff and Zainab and MITC, as well as the Maine MEP, which is shown here. The program is actually a national program. I've been involved to help create it about 15 years ago with it's sort of a joint venture between the MEP National Network and the U.S. Commercial Service and key partners like MITC. And I'm going to give you a quick overview of this program as just one of the portfolio of service offerings that are offered here in Maine, very much complementing what Zainab talked about for MITC and what Jeff talked about with the commercial service. Export Tech's a structured process that helps exporters expand globally. It basically takes a cohort of companies, and I'll show you a timeline that makes it a little more concrete what this looks like in a minute, but it takes a cohort of say 4 to 6 companies and works them through this structured process. Each company develops a strategic export growth plan in 11 weeks through a combination of workshops, planning tools, and individual coaching. They receive feedback on that plan in the final session when they present to a panel of experienced international business people. And it gives them an opportunity to, target the right markets, reevaluate their approach, open their eyes to new considerations. So there's one element of it is this planning element, as you can see on the left, or that's one of the benefits. There's also an educational element. So all the companies learn from a wide range of experts that we all bring to one place. And we also offer opportunities for individualized consultation. So it's not just a wall of PowerPoints, but also a lot of breakout sessions and individual consultations. And related to that is a connection piece. We connect participants in the program with a large number of private and public sector resources so that exporters are aware of the ecosystem there to support them. And there's a lot of programs and services and partners that people are unaware of, and it essentially expands your Rolodex. I guess I'm dating myself by using the word Rolodex, but it expands your Rolodex of people that can support you. And then finally, it sets you up for implementation by giving you a plan to execute against and hopefully to be able to achieve a higher return on investment on your business development and export development activities because it's guided by a plan. What it actually looks like, and it differs a lot depending on each region. And I'm going to give you what we did. We just completed this year in Maine, and what it looks like now. And I would argue that I think this format will probably hold into the future. This was a mix of virtual and in-person. We had a couple of one in-person session, and then all the rest of it was virtual. So it's fairly convenient and streamlined for people to participate without doing too much driving. The first sessions were in February 28th and March 2nd, where we did things like introduce the program, talk a bit about value proposition and sharpening your elevator pitch. We did things like a mini self-assessment, what we call the obstacles and risks exercise to help companies identify what their challenges are. We presented a growth plan template that you can use to develop your plan. And we connected the companies with a bunch of Maine export resources, many of which are on this call or in this Zoom session now and are being introduced to you this week on the SBA week program this week. Then in between those sessions, which were each about 3 hours long, okay, one in person, one virtual, one a Tuesday morning and a Thursday morning. Then there was an individual coaching meeting where I and folks from MITC and met with individual company, each of the companies individually between those February, March sessions and the April sessions to talk about developing their plan, figuring out what they need outside their sessions, outside the group sessions to move forward on international. Sessions 3 and 4 tend to be about sales channels, marketing, and other topics and export mechanics, very customized. We customize the agendas to the needs of the group, but we covered things like sales and distribution channels, global marketing, export compliance, logistics, legal. So a wide range of topics and experts brought in to, depending on the needs of the group, a mix of presentations and breakouts and one-on-one consults. Those were again mornings, Tuesday and Thursday, and April 4th and 6th. Between the April and final sessions in May, there was another round of individual coaching where we got together with the companies individually on Zoom to figure out if they needed help in developing their plans and whether there were other gaps we could fill. And in the final sessions that just completed, each company got an opportunity to present their plan to a panel of experienced international business people who give them feedback, ideas, improvement suggestions, resources to go to. So often it was validating elements of their strategy. And their final steps are going to be to just continue to work with the companies after that, these presentations that just completed, to help execute their plans. And that's where connection to all the resources throughout the program helps, because it allows them to, gives them the tools and the resources and the connections to people to help out execute. As you can see, it's a somewhat intensive process, but the shift to virtual environment, which we did over, since the beginning of the pandemic, has really helped streamline it. So now it's a bunch of morning sessions. So it doesn't take up all day. There's limited driving except for the first session. So we've got it fairly streamlined and I said, reduce the driving. So a couple of aspects of the approach. It is aimed at leadership. We have to have somebody from the leadership team involved in the program and the people particularly leading the international business. Often it's the CEO or president or owner. Each company is going to develop an international growth plan. It's highly customized to participants, as I said, depending on who's in the program. Very interactive, lots of breakouts, one-on-ones, and speed dating. And while it has an educational component, it's not just a training program. I think some people get confused by that. It's an execution program where we're trying to develop a plan and give people the resources to execute that plan. A couple of other unique elements, as I said, the plan presentations at the end where each company presents and gets feedback. The whole process of them presenting and get feedback is like 50 minutes per company. So it's significant attention from some experienced folks giving you feedback on your game plan. We often get breakout groups working together on a company's elevator pitch, which helps them sharpen their value proposition and differentiator. So it's very unusual to get a group of other business people or people with business experience there to help you thinking about how to pitch your company and your products and services and make it effective. We have the coaching in between sessions, so there's more going on than what's just going on between sessions. And not only the coaching meetings, but I know that we coordinated a bunch of other individual meetings for companies to connect with people that were relevant to them. So there's lots of connections being made outside the group sessions. As I said, there's a connection to the export ecosystem. We're trying to expand your network. And there's lots of involvement of experienced exporting executives who provide feedback to the plans in the final session. They participate in panel discussions. They participate in breakout consultations. So there's lots of interaction with experienced folks in the international arena. And I think this is the last piece, was just to say that we've had good results. So this is the 4th time we've done it in Maine, but we've run the program over 264 times nationally in about 37 states with over 1,300 companies. Here's some of the impact that has been quantified from surveys that show the average sales increase in retention is about just under $500,000. There's also a cost savings of 93,000, average number of jobs created or retained 6, and the total impact of the program to date is over $600 million. So we've had some good, and we've got lots of testimonials just dozens of them. Not everybody sees the sales increase. It depends. Some companies don't execute their plan, or sometimes it takes time for the sales to develop before they get surveyed. But a lot of companies see a substantial impact, as a result of the program. And the last thing I'll say, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen because that is the last slide. I'm not sure yet where the companies on the phone are or on the Zoom are by experience. In most cases, the companies that go through Export Tech are already exporting and are looking to grow and become more proactive and develop a plan. It's significant, intensive efforts, and most companies are serious about international. It's less common for fully new to export companies to participate, though it does happen. And we had a couple this year as well. But just wanted to emphasize that it tends to be companies that if they're not already going international, they're pretty serious about, they already have a lot of inquiries from foreign markets, and they clearly see international as an opportunity and want to put some effort into getting to the next level in that regard. And I will point out that of the folks on the call, I was just checking names. Eric Houston, if you're listening here, I think you said you were CASCON, and CASCON was a participant several years ago. Ed Gervais, believe you're still president, participated back then. So, hey, Eric. So just pointing that out because I did notice that I did notice CASCON there. So I think that's everything I wanted to say. Does anybody have any questions before we shift over to Tom Fox of Fox Forestry talking from a company's point of view?
No questions yet, but like we said, feel free to stick anything in the chat. Eric's saying thanks, Michael.
Yeah.
So definitely if you have any questions, stick them in there, but we can go on to Tom.
All right, so I'm going to stick around for this in the sense that I'm going to help sort of, if you will, interview Tom to pull out some of his experience. So Tom of Fox Forestry, he'll give the overview of his business, but he's participated in both the Export Tech program recently, and he's worked with MITC on the STEP grant and other programs. He's started to have discussions with Jeff Porter in the ways that his organization can help. So we thought Tom, having touched all of the organizations here, would be a good case study, if you will, to talk about what it looks like from a company's point of view. Tom, to set the stage a little, would you just kind of explain, what your business does, what types of products and services before we talk about the international piece?
Absolutely. So my name is Tom Fox with Fox Forestry. We have a forestry, we started out as a forest management company. So we managed forests, and we have still timber harvesting crews and work along the coast of Maine. And as a result of that, of the needs of that company, working specifically in the shoreland areas, we needed to have smaller equipment. We're doing a lot of work on the islands, the outer islands. We do a lot of work in Penobscot Bay. We were looking for smaller machines that we could turn our trees into forest products. So I started traveling the world to look for the right equipment, and it landed me in Scandinavia, and I wound up negotiating for 18 months to get contracts to import things. So we have some of the most technical small portable sawmills available in the United States, and these are coming to the end of a small dirt road in northern Maine. and we ship all over the United States. And so this is kind of grew us into a forestry equipment sales company, and it really set the stage for a massive growth that we weren't really we didn't 100% know where this was going to take us, but we went from a medium-sized service company in down East Maine to a quite a large equipment sales company. And so most of our experience globally was looking for vendors to import. So I'm consistently connected and looking for opportunities. I want to see what people are doing overseas. but I'm also, as a result of this, I start to learn about what we have to offer in Maine. And I'm really proud of a lot of things that we are so advanced with some of our rules in the state of Maine with forestry. I really love our shoreland forest management policies that we have as a state. I think that there's a lot of things that as I came home from these experiences that I looked and I said, this is a real gem that we got, you know? And so my experience with Maine International Trade kind of started, we had already had a lot of international business happening, but I didn't realize so much about all of these programs. So it was during COVID, we had some supply shipping challenges, and we were looking at diversifying and growing our brands. So I started to look I started to look closer to home, and we got a brand of so we were doing bandsaw mills, portable chainsaw mills, these are from Sweden, firewood processors from Finland, and some other products from Norway. And then I started looking at additional brands, and we found a company in Kentucky that manufactures the biggest bandsaw mills in the world, true cut sawmills. So we started working with them, and then this provided us with an opportunity as I started to test the waters of these other markets. There's a huge demand for this. So we got and this is where we just got momentum within the last, really, we took over this brand about 12 months ago, and it's taken a lot of time and energy and marketing to get this developed. But we are looking closely. I have a Swedish residency, so I'm in Sweden now. We have an office here. We have a business in the EU now in Sweden. We have a Canadian property that we bought while we were getting these good results, and then we started a business there. So now we're looking at expanding into these new markets, and we were looking for some advice. And I just graduated, I would say, from the export tech. So I still have my cap on, you know, it's still it's fresh. But it was really powerful experience, and also never got short of questions. I mean, any chance you have to work and engage with people that are at a higher level, this is where the real growth comes in. You know, this is where the professionals that are helping each other. And Mike, you and the team that you have put together with this, you guys, this is not your first clam bake. You know, you guys have been doing this for a long time, and it shows. And being able to, I mean, I felt really confident when I could ask a question, and you might not have the answer, but I'll tell you what, within 3 email addresses you did, you know? And so that network that this opportunity will help you build is really the value. And then the feedback that you can get will also help steer. So I think those were some of my take homes from this particular session.
From the expert.
And I know you may have specific questions for me, so
Yeah.
I'll let you.
Well, let me just go back, so thank you. And those were all right on point. So one thing I just wanted to go back to, because some of the folks here may be interested, is, so you traveled the world, you know, looking for some of these products. Now you have this equipment line, some of which is imported. You also have the Kentucky line. And, you know, what got you interested in Canada? Was it you saw the opportunity as part of your word out in the forestry world, or people inquiring about you? What made you want to start selling in Canada as well as looking around for equipment to buy?
Yeah, well, Canada was a strategic move for us. Number one, when we're looking at specific brands, okay, the United States is an extraordinarily powerful market globally. So a lot of the technical forestry equipment is designed and manufactured in the EU, and then they're usually 10 years ahead of us with most of these types of markets. So not in every case, so I want to be careful, but with some of these markets, so what got Canada interested was, number one, the ability to service all of North America. That's a really powerful tool to have in your bag when you're going to negotiate with a company that potentially wants to do business with you, and you can say, I can service North America. That's number one. Number two, some of these technologies, like we signed a contract with a kiln manufacturer, a wood drying engineer. It's an Italian company, and I've worked at this for about 18 months. That Italian contract, I could not pierce exclusivity in the United States, but I could pierce and obtain exclusivity in Canada. And that was another strength of ours, and we could come to the table and offer that. But then once we started looking at these ultra wide bandsaw mills, we need to go where the trees are. So we have a powerful network in the Pacific Northwest, but we have very few sales, if any, in Canada. We have one machine in Ontario. British Columbia is untapped for us. So we wanted to be able to, we have a product that needs a certain resource, and British Columbia has that resource. So that was and then all of these things started to kind of coincide. It was sort of like, there's a method to what we were doing, although it's a lot of different scope of things. So you guys, with our export class, we started to put the pieces to the puzzle together. So our margins on the bandsaw mill, the investments on marketing, some of these things that we discovered through the discipline of doing the work together as a team. It also brought my staff together. I know Jennifer's on the call. She did her and Eleanor did a tremendous lot of work to help us get to where we were. It wasn't me, it was all of us, But what we discovered was we're in the same genre. We are working with a potential customer who, once we develop this relationship with that customer, we are going to be able to sell them additional equipment that we already have contracts to sell in that country. And now you're looking at a 3 to 5 year strategic plan that includes 2 to 3 other brands of equipment. And when you look at the sales, we started to put those pieces of the puzzle together. And it wasn't until we could look at ourselves closely through the questions that Mike was asking, So sometimes you think you have a really good idea, and I'm guilty of this, okay? But then it's not until you start to peel off the layers where you get to the center of this thing, and you're like, well, it's still a good idea, but your margins got a lot smaller. So where's your structure here? And that's where we started to come up with those things. But Canada, location is close. The forest types are close, particularly with New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. These are all firewood processors, same diameter, pretty much same management techniques. West Coast, Pacific Northwest, and Vancouver Island, very similar. We can start to cross border our existing customers.
Right. So let me just highlight a couple of things that you said. So number one is that, there are a couple of reasons you were looking international. There's some untapped market. If you could cover all of North America, it made the more attractive for equipment manufacturers to work through you. And as you said, Canada, in some ways you could maybe arrange an exclusivity. So in some ways the competitive situation or the market opportunity was better, it's a smaller market, maybe it was better there in some ways. which was great. The other thing you said, I think, which illustrates the benefits of export tech, you talked about, developing a plan and a structure around how to pursue this, which is definitely what export tech does. And also to be able to ask questions. It gives you that network of like, you may not know the answer, but I can ask the question and, a couple of emails or phone calls away, you'll get the answer.
Yeah.
Which is great. And those are good illustrations of what export tech does in helping you, think through your plan. Talk a little bit about other MITC support. I think you were working on a new website using the STEP grant as part of the whole overall set of things you were doing here. Can you just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so we did apply for a new website, and this was geared mostly to begin to interact with our Canadian markets. So when you come to our website, now it will see that you have a Canadian IP address, and then it will start to give you things based on that IP address in a different way than if you were in the United States. And that's going to be really important as we differentiate, where how the sales process comes through, but it also makes them feel like, oh, they're working in the Canadian market. This is all of a sudden it's accustomed to our needs, and we actually use this STEP grant as an opportunity to also update, not only access the Canadian market, but update the things that the Canadian market is going to test. You can't take an obsolete website, a brand, and put it into an IP address. The IP address doesn't fix it. What we actually did was updated everything about our website with the ability to get into Canada. So by the time a Canadian IP address user got to our website, it's lightning fast. We're getting them information, and now all of a sudden hit our Google ratings, so that then we were paying for Google AdWords and marketing, and then it's a cadence that you don't always know what you need next. You know what I mean? So this is also good where we can work together with you guys, and you're like, okay, there's a STEP grant. Do I need to go to a trade show, or do I need to get my digital marketing nailed?
And I wanted to emphasize both of those things so that, so Zeynep, you referenced this before, the type of things that STEP supports, and that's of course what SBA funds. And that kind of creating a Canadian section of your website aimed at Canada, or a separate website for Canada, is one of the things that the STEP grant can cover. And there's almost every company I work with in export tech and beyond would get some benefit from looking at taking their web presence and internationalizing it or localizing it to different countries. So that's a perfect example of how Tom and Fox Forestry have taken advantage of STEP resources and export tech to figure out their overall game plan, and then also to use the grant function to adapt their web presence, for example, for international.
And I will say a couple more things to the other businesses that might be on the phone. We are not a huge company people-wise, and I'm sure that not everybody else is either. The value in this, though, is when you're going through the STEP grants, when you're going through the export classes, we're also running a business. We also have to be places. We have real sales to make. We have to handle each other. We have to, we're still shipping things. We still have, it's noisy, but what we have now as we finish is, and we make all these connections, what we have now is a bit of a plan. And as you start to implement that plan, you may not be able to respond to every email, or you might not be able to have everything in the same flow, but now you can deliberately go back to that person who is a key player who you were introduced to, and then you can resurrect that email and follow through when the timing is right. So it's noisy, there's a lot of stuff happening, it's all got a lot of value, but you can put it into a place and come back to that as you need it. That's really important, because otherwise we would just get to that place and then have to search.
Right, exactly, the ecosystem. So the last thing I want to ask you before we kind of interact with the whole group and see if they have any questions is, Tom, you said some interesting things that in this process, and it really started when you were traveling internationally to Sweden, about seeing the differences in the markets between the US and Sweden and elsewhere, that you really start to see real differences in how the markets operate. US has some strengths, others have some weaknesses, and that change your strategy. Can you just give a thumbnail on that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the United States, I would say we have a lot to give to the rest of the world, and we're often we can be behind in some technology and we can be advanced in others. So I know a lot about our forestry field, our forestry equipment field, and you know, it's from making these relationships with these companies in all over the world where we can. I actually come in to the trade shows. In last year, I was in Estonia in the spring. I was in Germany in the summer. I was in Sweden in the summer. I hit all of the big shows, and now I'm actually selling sawmills for the vendors in English, and in a German, when somebody comes to that doesn't speak the home language, then I can sell in English. But what I noticed was there was some trends to this. And what I also noticed is that when it comes to small businesses creating live edge slabs, you know, making furniture, making resin tables, promoting themselves on Instagram, promoting themselves on Facebook, we have a culture of entrepreneurs like no other country. We are so far in a high level with this that the rest of the Europeans are looking at what we're doing with these markets, and we're exploding it. And this is a lot of business. This is a lot of revenue for this in this sector. And when I came over to talk with some of our potential customers in Sweden, and you know, we were looking at what does that culture look like here? What does this market look like here? And he's saying, you know, they have the elm disease like we do. They have monster trees that are coming through these landfills, but it's a really untapped. It's not it's not even close. It's like the tip of the iceberg. So here we are. I wasn't 100% aware of where our strengths were. But as I started to come back into this export class and started to work with these ideas and started to, our new websites and our new things were starting to attract people from all over the globe. So they were finding us through paid Google AdWords, and we were connecting with them indiscriminately of us trying. They were just finding us. And that's the theme that I got from this. So looking back at that, I'm like, okay, we have a product that's kind of obscure. It's very specific. It's a niche, but we have a marketplace that could totally change how it looks and feels for the Europeans, you know, and that's a strength that I feel also that through the export tech, through these relationships that I found, you guys are the wind in the sails of a good idea. Okay. And if anybody is this close to making it public, share it with these guys, because you're going to get they're going to help you you know, feel it out, flesh it out, and then you're off to the races.
Right. Well, that underestimates the strength of how much you actually already built this business with certainly without any of our involvement, but those are kind words. So Zeynep and Kelsey and Jim, why don't we sort of open it up and see if anybody's got any questions for Tom or anybody at this point. And if nobody does, I'm going to start asking people who are on to see who they are and what their interest is in international is.
There, you heard it first. You better get your questions in quick, or it's going to be
right.
Like in math class getting called on.
Right.
Well, thank you all. I really liked the way that Tom mentioned that if someone didn't have an answer within 3 emails, they did. That's our whole spiel.
Guys, yeah.
We want to answer your questions, and if we can't, we want to find the people who can.
Yeah.
So that's a great takeaway.
Great.
I don't see any questions yet. So either you've all answered every single question that they could possibly have had.
All right. Well, I'm gonna pick, so already picked on, unless he's left, is there, Eric, so I'm picked on you because I know your company. So can you just talk about what your role is? And, as I said, I know Ed from participating in Export Tech a number of years ago. And I think you've been I think you guys are a member of MITC and have worked with probably both Mitzi and Jeff in the past. So where you're at, what's your interest in at this stage in terms of international? You're on mute though. I think you're on mute.
Peculiar, you are unmuted. However, we could not hear you. Not, he's off the hook.
There.
The old Bluetooth.
Ah,
How about now? Can you hear me now?
there we go.
There you go.
Sorry, I was listening to you with speakers, had put my headset on. So thank you for the shout out for Cascon. I've been with Cascon since August of 2021. In some ways, I replaced somebody who was irreplaceable. His name was Chris Gerard. And I worked directly for Ed Gervais III that you mentioned. So part of it is I'm a fellow Mainer, or at least grew up in Maine. Liked what I heard from Tom about Northern Maine, because I grew up in the county. And for those of you that know Maine, all you have to say is the county, and it's a rural county. I'm broadcasting from Charlotte, and I'm on my second year of trying to relocate to the Yarmouth area due to the lovely housing situation in the beloved state that I want to return to after traveling the world for over 30 years. My role as director at Cascon primarily focused on outbound activities, and naturally we do export, but we don't fully leverage all the benefits of export. For those of you that don't know, Cascon is a custom pump development company. We are probably more of an engineering firm that makes most of our money when we derive a product and get it into production phase beyond prototypes, but we're heavy on the engineering side. I also appreciate the shout out to Gerarders. We actually source Gerarders from Nichols, Portland. So keeping it all in the family within Maine wherever possible. My interest is just to follow, learn, network. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to introduce Cascon in my role. I look forward to follow up after these sessions. Thank you all.
Thanks for letting me pick on you, Eric. And yeah, as I recall, you guys do a non-negligible piece is international of the pumps and probably some of the engineering. And sounds like you're on outbound, like sort of sales business development. So, and you being newer there, yeah, I'm glad that you're getting reconnected with the MITC folks and Jeff Porter and myself, because what tends to happen is companies kind of get engaged and then they drop away, and then there's more of an opportunity to reconnect and leverage it for your next phase of growth.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a wild card here that you helped Ed and Chris with a defense related show in the UK.
I think you did. I think MITC did. Well, I think DSEI. Is that the show? Oh, you're frozen. I think the answer is yes. So DSEI?
Yes.
Yeah, MITC, Zainab, I think they went with on a DSAI or MITC was involved somehow. I don't know if there was step or
With
actually
Tom Conley, maybe.
with Tom Connolly. Yeah, that's exactly right. It was with Tom.
Yeah.
Great.
So we can look to further expand on that as a follow-up activity, but we have market share on aeroderivative gas turbines, particularly for Siemens Energy. Siemens Energy has acquired the products of Rolls-Royce, Dresser Rand, in addition to their own, but so we have inquiries from all over the world specific to the lubrication scavenge pumps on those items. It's not high volume, but it's a very highly engineered component. So there's definitely activity there. Also in aerospace, aviation and aerospace, as long as it's not commercial aviation, the pricing strategy, holding price for 30 years and all the regulations around commercial aviation is just not worth our effort at this stage.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Eric. So let me pick on somebody else. So I see there's several food companies here. So Paul Roberts, Coastal Maine Popcorn, just randomly. Paul, you listening in or you're on mute? If you're there, you go. Paul, you there? I see you're off mute, but I can't hear anything if you're talking.
I wonder if it's an us problem. It's happened to 3 people today. But
Okay.
appreciate you trying, Paul.
Yeah, Paul, if you
Sorry about that.
Oh, we got
there
him.
we go. We got him. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can.
Okay.
Paul, tell us about Coastal Maine Popcorn and what you're interested in internationally.
Well, basically, Coastal Maine Popcorn, we're in our 15th year now. And so we're growing our wholesale business every year substantially by reaching out and by using digital things like Fair and Mabel, and then some other sort of more distributor-based portals that we're accessing and getting some decent traction through. And but I'm very interested. I grew up abroad. I grew up in a lot of different countries, and I'm curious. We've had a few people reach out to us from from Singapore and Vietnam. Very interested in our product. They continue to reach out, and it's just one of those things, like you had said yesterday, where it's a little bit overwhelming. You wear, my wife and I, and we're that typical 10 to 12 person company. We get a little bigger in the summer because we're in Booth Bay Harbor. But it's, you wear all the hats. So it's just a little bit overwhelming, but we're because of labor issues the last few years and our growth, we're really trying to slowly automate. We'd love to automate quickly, but that takes capital that we just don't have. So we're slowly trying to automate our process, which lends itself towards obviously towards looking for new markets. And I'm just really interested. We've sent some popcorn to some wholesale customers in Canada, but it's price prohibitive, when we're sending it, because we're just sending it UPS. We're not going, through a distributor per se, and dealing with much larger volume. We're dealing with small amounts, and by the time everybody gets their piece, it's just not viable. So I'm starting to try to learn now by going through this week's sessions as much as I can, and then hopefully be working with one or more of you in the near future.
Great, Paul, that makes a lot of sense. So one thing I'm thinking about a little bit as I'm hearing you talk is that, because you are a food company, and Zeynep, I'm hoping you can help me here, but there are a lot of great resources for food and ag companies to help on the exporting side. There are the Foreign Agricultural Service and a nonprofit they fund called Food Export, which is, I believe they're based, Zeynep, I know April is based in Philadelphia. I think they're based in Philadelphia. Are you aware of either of those organizations? I
am not.
Okay. So they are essentially, entities. MITC partners with Food Export and the Foreign Ag Service to provide export assistance to food companies. And the Food Export, they specialize in food, and they are funded by the Foreign Agricultural Service. It's part of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And they are very analogous to Jeff Porter's organization in the Department of Commerce, where they have offices and embassies all over the world. And that can help with, for example, finding distributor partners or assessing the market or understanding about regulatory and compliance issues. And they also have a grant program. And Zeynep, you're going to have to remind me, it used to be called the Branded Program, but it's very analogous to STEP, that it helps fund export business development for food companies. It used to be called the Branded Program. Do you know what it's called now? Do you remember what it's called?
Unfortunately, it's not a sector I work with, but we're happy to, if you can email us at, I put my email address up on the chat, I can have my colleague that works on the food side of things connect with you. And you can also take advantage of the DTAP domestic trade grant for attending trade shows, etc.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically there's a grant through Food Export USA for international business development. The only thing is you can either use that or use the STEP program to attend the international show, because it's both federal grants and you can't double dip. But definitely something you should be aware of. Thank you, Mike, for bringing that up.
Thank you
And
very much.
DTAP
for that.
too, and DTAP might be more even accessible for you for domestic trade, trade shows and business development too. So definitely email. I'll put my email address. I mean, it wouldn't be me, but I'll connect you. Turk@mic.com is my email, and we'll just I'll connect you to my colleagues.
Yeah,
Okay,
that would,
I'll
I think
email you
that's,
after this segment.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
yeah, Paul, and just to reiterate, just so you know what you're doing. So MITC is definitely, I think, the right connecting point, whoever Zeynep puts you with. And so there's the grant that offsets some of these business development costs or going to shows. And then there's a bunch of information. So when it comes to like, how do I figure out if, compliance issues for Canada or labeling issues and stuff like that, they also provide, in fact, the agriculture, they've spent a lot on this. They actually have some really good resources in that regard to help make it easier to learn what you need to learn to deal with the Canadian market. I know you've got other issues about like, you're automating and you've got to, that will then allow you to have the capacity to serve these new markets. That's obviously on your side, but as you're ready to pursue these things, there's a lot of great resources at Food Export and Foreign Ag Service. I'm often jealous of them when I'm working with many non-food manufacturing companies. So I couldn't underscore more the idea that you definitely reach out on that one.
And possibly Maine MEP could help with some of the automation, those kind of efficiency.
Potentially, yeah, potentially.
Are you connected to Maine MEP, Paul?
No, we are not.
So that might be like potentially you can.
Yep.
Weekend too.
Great.
Okay, well, I will definitely reach out to MITC. Certainly sounds like that's my primary step. So.
Yep, that sounds like the first good step. Great, thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much.
There you go. And then I'll put in a plug for the Maine SBDC's YouTube channel, which has a whole series of wholesale webinars that we did last month with Peter. So it'd be worth checking those out as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It looks like Tom already answered this question in the chat, but maybe we'll swing it back to him anyway. Joel had a really good question. How do you cultivate an exporting mindset? He says, if it appears you grew up with a small Maine company to a company that is growing and expanding in great measure, what is an action item for smaller companies as a first step from an entrepreneur's perspective? Which is a great question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is. And I think it also started from just loving what I did. It never stopped, but that was the origin. But I would say the real factor for me was I always was trying to do a better service. And when we had, I was involved with the tree growth tax program. And when LePage was in and he was trying to squeeze out all these wealthy landowners in Vinyl Haven, okay, I was looking for a solution. And you're working on an island, you have no transportation, we need smaller equipment, we need to put these families together, and we needed to come up with a forestry solution that wasn't commercial forestry. And I was gonna find that solution. So that was the inspiration. And then I joined programs like the Forest Resource Association, FRA. Eric Kingsley is the head of that. He was one of the people that you brought in, Mike, to talk. In 2015, the University of Maine and the Forest Resource Association took all of these forestry professionals, and we went on a trip to, it's the first time I ever left. Okay, we went on a trip to Iceland. The chief of the Icelandic Forest Service was a University of Maine graduate, and he got a doctorate in forest genetics. and we spent like 3 or 4 or 5 days in Iceland, and then we went to Denmark, Sweden. We went to the World Forestry Fair. At the World Forestry Fair was all of the brand new technology released that year. And I got a chance to talk to not just the people who were using the equipment, but to the founders that designed the equipment that was being sold. And now these relationships that I have globally is with I love these guys. These guys are kindred spirits. You know what I mean? And we don't see obstacles the same way. And so I can connect with these guys very well. And that has been, but it wasn't until I gave myself permission to start doing stuff like this, you know? And then I just kept going. And so around 2013, 14, I had got divorced, and that was another catalyst. I was like, woohoo, let's do it. So those things, and then, you know, think really big. And then the thing that I will tell you too is like, it's not until you know where you're going when you can recognize an opportunity. So you would be surprised when you're not, and you have to have a certain amount of flow with your business so that you can come up above a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's like a kite. Every once in a while, the staff would be like, Tom, come back here. You got to deal with some things. But then I get a little string and I can handle it, you know, but that type of inspiration is what gets you, but that opens up your eyes. And then you have to be able to recognize that opportunity. You're like, and you have to be willing to, like, not all of you have to be willing to fail. Like, not all of the loans that I have that we pay on produced. some of the stuff just, you know, but you just get through it. So those are the things that I would say, you know, notice what you're doing, what you're good at, what you'd like to do, and then start breaking the boundaries, you know, start writing some stuff down. I have my journals that I'm writing down every notes every time I go somewhere, and then I'll go back to it and I'll say, oh yeah, I remember Mike talked about somebody. I got a date right here. Boom, 3 emails away. So you guys have been great, and I really appreciate this. And I never am short of questions because I'm always trying to solve something where it's like, okay, and then how does this fit in? And there's things from the export class that we just simply don't know yet. We're close.
Tom, I love all those answers, but Joel, just for the record, I don't think you should get divorced as a way to develop an exporting mindset.
Whatever's in your way. Sometimes, you know, how important is it, you know? But it's good. I got remarried and have my wife in Sweden, and now we have places in both places, you know, so it's a good, it's
all right. Tom's making a good case. All right.
Yeah. I mean,
so I'm just wondering, in the few minutes we have left, if anybody else on the wants to talk about where they're at and their interest in international. I see some others. Angela, looks like you're from Lucerne Farms. Willie, I'm not sure what company you're with. Fabcom. Anybody want to jump in to talk about what their interest is, their company and their interest in international?
We'd love to hear from anybody. Peter put in a good question in the chat also that anyone can speak to, but he often gets a question, how small is too small in regards to thinking about exporting? So any helpful suggestions for very small companies? Peter put the question in, so maybe he shouldn't answer it.
That was my question.
I mean, I just want to say we sometimes get inquiries that are very general. It could be an individual looking to start, but they're just at such an early stage. So I recommend that they work with SBDC and other partners to get a business plan together, and then be specific when you come to us like, well, I could or import, like it could be spices, it could be clothes, it could be, then we can't really help. When it's more specific, and even with spices or clothes, like, is it cotton, is it silk, is it blend? Because all these have different duties and tariffs associated with them based on what they are, that you have to pay, you know, that will be incorporated into your pricing. Sometimes there are compliance issues there. So it's just good to start. You can be small, but you just need to have a real clear business plan and really kind of, and it's not easy. You need to kind of, like Tom was saying, you know, you need to just kind of find something you're passionate and just kind of step by step, follow it up, break those barriers, like don't give up. Because it's not easy. It just gets, I mean, it can be easy, but it's just complicated, overwhelming initially, all the, you know, paperwork and all the, how do I find duties and tariffs? I mean, there are resources here, but you just need to be specific, have a plan and stick to it and check in with your resources, like right here, you know, we're around the table, there are more coastal enterprises or Exim Bank, etc. You know, so just kind of, and we know each other, so we can kind of refer, if you're not ready yet for us, we'll kind of send you to SBDC. If you're ready for us, they'll send you to us. And I'll kind of connect with Jeff Porter or Mike Stone to kind of get their program. So more than size, it's, I think, preparedness would be my answer for that.
I would add, I would largely agree with what Zainab said. The size doesn't matter. It really comes down to whether the company wants to get international, they have an interesting product, and they're willing to put the time and effort into it, because it will be additional time and effort up front. This is not something you can haphazardly do, or we'll get to it. I mean, the number of clients that I brought overseas that do everything right while they're there, and then they blow off follow-up for months at a time, and it's just, you just can't do that. I mean, I think for a lot of companies, and some that are on the call today, I think the question you should ask is, am I interested in selling in Barcelona? Yes, but do I have better opportunity in Boston or Charlotte or in San Jose? And again, there is no right answer. There's no, you know, I work with a company of one person and he knows exactly what he's doing, and we help him all over the world. And I've worked with very large multinationals that don't talk to each other inside the company. So you never know, and the size doesn't matter. But again, I think as you talk to the resources, and you've got almost all the resources around the table, from funding to export marketing plans to helping find distributors. So I think that, you know, we certainly can help you with that.
The other thing I'd like to kind of stress, because I know Tom mentioned it a little bit with the STEP grant. If I heard correctly, Tom, did you use the STEP grant to help with your website?
That is correct. Yeah, we used it to help with our website, and we used it to specifically to help us access the Canadian market using that website. So that was huge.
Yeah, so from the previous day, I kind of highlighted how important websites and how easy websites can traverse borders. And if you do it well, you can really open the markets there with very little manpower actually in the country, if you can manage it. So STEP grant for that, STEP grant for trade missions as well. Definitely something I don't know, I don't think you used it, Tom, but Tom had gone to, you know, Sweden and Iceland and all that stuff. And if that was a trade mission that was set up, that could have been possibly a use that you could have used too. But a lot of what Tom found out and what Setup knows, what Michael knows, there's a lot of resources out there. It's just a matter of knowing them. So the whole 3 by 3 email chain thing is, if I don't know the answer, there's probably someone that does. We just need to figure it out who.
Yeah, I was going to say, Peter, that's a great point too about how websites are so easily traverse borders. So many of the clients I work with get see a lot of leads come in internationally from their website, and that's how they get started. Or if they've already started, it gets them even more interested in international because people find them, and you know, that's often the way it happens. And still for a lot of companies that are significant internationally, a non-negligible part of their leads can come in from the website. So yeah, it's inherently opens up cross-border opportunity.
So sometimes I'll give you a story. Sometimes inadvertently, right? I have a client that
Absolutely.
is very popular in Korea for some reason. I don't know.
Hmm.
Ran with it. Just
Right.
happened to. All right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? We got 10 minutes left.
I know, I was gonna say, I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I will be sending out follow-up information after today's session. That'll include the recording and the slides. If at any point you have a question that pops into your head, you can respond to any of those emails and they will end up in the same place, and I can connect you with the right people. I can definitely get you 3 emails away from an answer.
It's almost like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon challenge now, right?
Well, that's great. Thanks for having me, guys. This has been, I wanted to thank everybody too, because this, you know, and Jeff will follow up with you, and Mike, I thank you for the export tech, and Mitzi. I mean, this is the beginning of something for all of us too, you know, and now that we know, now that we are, you know, have these connections established, you know, as we make that next connection to the overseas market, and as we make the next you know, transfer pricing lawyer connection, and get some of this stuff dialed in, we're going to have to come back. And then I also love that, you know, as your business is growing, you also need to be prepared for what's next. You might want to have another, you know, what you get from this export tech class and what you get from these resources is a process for yourself. So if you have an interest in growing a company, and we're thinking about taking on another brand of equipment, and then I can go to Jeff and we can do a little market research, particularly if we have the United States backing. It's a United States product. I mean, I think the one thing that I noticed at the end of this was, I want more things from the US, baby. I want to open up the EU. I want to revolutionize their forest management industry, you know, because I was looking from what they had for us when it comes to fire processing forestry equipment, whether it's a harvester head. All of these are all this technology is Scandinavian, you know, and we're using it in our commercial forestry, you know, but now we can take our urban forestry and bring it to EU. So I'll keep you posted.
Hey,
Thank you, guys.
Tam, thanks for agreeing to join us for this. Thank you.
Yeah.
We should start a
Tom.
movement. All the main companies, we need to get like a sticker and just place it in different places in the countries.
Oh yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, Tom, you're getting extra thank yous in the chat, so make sure you
Good.
roll through there.
Yeah,
before
thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. It's been great. I really love what I do, and I really love to make these relationships, and it's been really rewarding, and I can see, you know, I can see the value that we've already created it, you know.
Well, like Tom's mentioned, in this ever increasing digital world, getting out to these trade missions and actually getting relationships with people, that sticks, right? It's easier to
Absolutely
do trade with someone you've met and talked to than it is to exchange emails or text or whatever.
Yeah.
Tom, Jeff, Zenip, Michael, thank you so much for coming on and doing day 2 to explain the STEP, explain the Maine International Trade Center, explain a lot of the different things that you went through today. Definitely worthwhile to get on this. I see some comments going up. Everyone had
It's Swedish. Jag pratar bra svenska. I've been taking Swedish in the mornings from 8 in the morning until noon. And so at the Swedish office, I can bicycle from my I call it my culture club. It's like a convex, Örebro convex. And so I learned Swedish in the morning, and then at 1 o'clock and after lunch, it's 7 a.m. in the United States. So I can come into the office right now. It's 7. So I usually finish around now, but I get 6 or 7 solid hours to work with my team. and
Right.
also learn Swedish. So you never know.
The added benefits to exporting, right?
Yeah, who knew? Who knew?
Who
That's
knew?
right.
And now when I'm negotiating with the vendors, they can't. This is also the fire. This is like, no, you take it in svenska. Ursäkta mig. We take it in svenska, you know, and
We can't negotiate.
so
behind your back,
anyway,
yeah.
it's good. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Tune in tomorrow is our finance. We're talking about with a couple local banks and the SBA with their specific programs. The day after that is the business plan with Grace from Women's Business Center. And as I think most of the people mentioned here, having a plan in place is definitely one of the first stepping stones to understand which direction you're going to go. And like Tom mentioned, the plan never really ends, right? It just changes because your goal is changing as you grow your business. As you meet goals, you should set new goals. So that's day 4. And then again, day 5, we'll have the panel of other businesses that are also exporting. So please come back. We will record it just in case and put it on YouTube. But again, thank you all for coming and showing up.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.